Okay, I've chosen to do the vowels a and for a class of intermediate Arabic speakers. I've chosen these two sounds because I've noticed that my Arabic students substitute one for another. In my transcription for the last assignment, we had sometimes instead of sometimes, bas instead of bus. Also, a couple of Arabic speakers have said not just that they have problems with this, but that they couldn't hear the difference. They couldn't actually hear the difference between these two sounds. And the two sounds are very similar. They're both open vowel sounds, and they're made in a similar way, and they're next to each other on the vowel space chart. They are very close, so students obviously have a difficulty hearing and reproducing that subtle difference. And because these phonemes obviously are units that differentiate word meaning, a mispronunciation leads to a misunderstanding. And there's a possibility it's part of a range of phonemes that they're having difficulty with. And obviously if they're mispronouncing a range of these phonemes, then for a listener they are extremely difficult to understand. There is also the possible advantage being in the north of England, because there's a more distinct difference between the two vowels. I think we would have a and for bat and bus in down south in London maybe, whereas we would have bat and bus. It's a distinctly lower, closer to the schwa sound. I think that's an advantage, at least we have here with distinguishing these two sounds. I did think of it in terms of allophones and maybe talking a little bit about that, but reading in the Cali that maybe these things are not so important for the classroom, and that we teach these phonemes as representing a family of sounds rather than just one sound. So I'm just going to take it as an advantage being in the north to teach it. So the sounds themselves, the A is an open vowel sound, and the tongue is low in the mouth. The front of the tongue is raised to just below half the open position, and the lips neutrally open, maybe slightly more spread with the A than the And the sound is it's an open vowel sound with a central position, with the tongue low in the mouth again, and the centre of the tongue is raised to just above the fully open position, and the lips are neutrally open. And I can feel if I move from the that my tongue is going slightly forward, and maybe my lips are spreading a little. So what I would do is firstly model these two sounds, the sounds myself, boarding the phonemes as well, the two different phonemes, so students can see and hear the difference and notice the difference themselves. I'd use the mouth map to help with the mouth placement, particularly the subtle difference between the tongue, that we can see this little dot moving. I'd stress that the see the sound. Oh, can you see that? The sound is a neutrally open shape to the lips, maybe a bit more spread. And the sound, there's an advice to sort of throw back the head, particularly when comparing it to that should help students recognise that difference. Then what I was going to do was use, so students recognise the vowels, the phonemes, sorry. I was going to give them two or three maybe, but very short gap fills. I think you can see where all they're asked to do is put the right phoneme in. One I've done, the first one I've done, and the second one I've left blank. But so they're not understanding the sentence or form or anything. They're just literally putting the phoneme to recognise the two differences and the two different sounds. And then again, so they can hear, what I was going to do was use flashcards, and I've kind of done a little one, cab. I was going to use minimal pairs really, and I've got a few here. You can see cab, let's get them down here, but cab, cut, cup, cap, some very easy ones. Again, it's just focusing on that sound. So what I was going to do is do this, flashcards, get them class to repeat the word, differences in minimal pairs, and then the second time around I was going to get them to just use images. So cab and cap, cup, etc. So words first, images second time round. So I just drew them myself. To drill, I was going to use sentences containing the two different vowel sounds. So the sentence is almost nonsensical. But and I was going to board the sentences. I've got 4 examples here, but maybe a few more will be good here. So I sometimes, I submit samples on Saturday. So let's just, and there are others. My cat had a cut from a bully. I have some hugs in a bag on Saturday and Sunday. So boarding these, hearing the full sentence back, but then forward chaining them one by one. So I sometimes submit, I sometimes submit I sometimes submit samples all the way, and then chaining it backwards. So day, Saturday, on Saturday, samples on Saturday, submit on Saturday, sometimes submit samples on Saturday, I sometimes submit samples on Saturday. So we're forward chaining, backward chaining, and I've got 4, probably do 5 sentences with that to drill. And then to get the students to produce, I was going to use a running dictation, whereby the students are split into 2 teams, and each team nominates a writer. So maybe you've got a class of 10 and you will have 2 writers, team A, team B, 4 runners, and then 1 piece of written text pinned to the other side of the wall opposite the writers. 2 teams have to, they can do it all en masse. It's not about taking turns. They have to go memorize some of the text, go back and dictate it to the writer, who is the only person allowed to complete the text. Obviously, the team, as teams, they have to reproduce the text as accurately as possible. And okay, so the fact that they have to go to the text and memorize it and come back. Obviously, the text itself is full with words like clutter and clatter, nutter, natter, cup, cap, these minimal pairs, but also just any with the sometimes, Saturday, Sunday, any words with these vowels in. And obviously, amidst the chaos and in the competition, they have to be very careful to stress these phonemes, otherwise there's going to be a lot of mistakes in that text. It's something of a competition that the student with the team with the finishes first, stops the clock, and then we compare and see who's got the most mistakes, the most accurate representation of the phonemes, reproduction of the phoneme. And I'm sure I've missed something, but I think that's it.